PacificPower induction incident. A line crew was assigned work on two separate 230 kV structures April 6 and 7, 2020. On April 6, 2020, the crew was to replace a deteriorated arm with a steel truss at structure 2/26. On April 7, 2020, the crew was to replace a two-pole H structure at 3/26, one span away. On April 6, 2020, after receiving the line clearance, the crew tested and grounded the three conductors approximately 100 feet to the north of structure 2/26 towards structure 3/26. The conductors were grounded to a screw-in ground rod to establish a system ground. This line does not have a grounded overhead static wire or pole ground to use as the grounding point. The crew set up a bucket truck and a crane at structure 2/26, grounding the crane to the same ground rod as the line grounds. Test line de-energized with high-voltage tester. Install driven ground. Install one end of first jumper on driven ground. Other end of first jumper to phase. Second jumper phase to phase. Third jumper phase to phase. Fourth jumper from driven ground rod to crane at 2/26. Work was completed at 2/26 as planned, and the grounds were left in place overnight for work the next day at structure 3/26. On April 7, 2020, the crew moved the bucket truck and crane to structure 3/26, leaving the line grounded as it was the previous day. After the new poles were set, the crew positioned the bucket truck and crane for the aerial work. They removed the X-braces and prepared to lower the conductors from the old arm in order to hang the new truss. The crew installed a ground rod and grounded the crane as part of the setup at structure 3/26. Linemen 1 and 2 ascended the structure in a double bucket and signaled the crane into position. Lineman 1 removed a vibration dampener from the first conductor to be lowered. Lineman 1 then grabbed the lifting hook of the crane and made contact with the line conductor when the incident occurred. The lineman had a hold of a conductor lifting support attached to the whip line of the grounded crane in his left hand and reached out to grab the grounded 230 kV line with his right hand and became in series due to a difference in potential between the two, resulting in the lineman being unable to release his grip. The second lineman in the bucket was able to quickly free the first lineman and signal the crane operator to swing the crane out of the area. The injured lineman was lowered to the ground and provided first aid. After the work had stopped and lineman 1 was being evaluated by EMTs, the crew measured 3.8 kV between the crane's lifting hook and the conductor. The crew was relying on system grounds 500 feet away from the worksite and did not have an EPZ grounding and bonding configuration in place at the worksite. The crew did not realize the ability of the induction to reach a dangerous level. They assumed that by leaving the system grounds in place and grounding the crane when they moved to the next structure, they were extending their EPZ zone. 230 kilovolt lines 1 and 2 run parallel 120 feet apart for approximately 18 miles in the section where the incident occurred. This creates the potential for electromagnetic field induction between the two lines. The crane was grounded on day 2 at structure 3/26 to an independent ground rod 500 feet from where the system grounds were in place near structure 2/26. Must have 3 phases bonded together and connected to a cluster bar on each pole, then to driven ground to create EPZ zone. Sequence should be: test line de-energized with high-voltage tester. Install driven ground. Install cluster bars. Install one end of first jumper on driven ground. Other end of first jumper to cluster bar. Second jumper to both cluster bars. Third jumper cluster bar to phase. Fourth jumper, phase to phase. Fifth jumper, phase to phase. Sixth jumper from driven ground rod to crane. Install step and touch monitor. Crane should be grounded, if not isolated with an insulated link stick, to the same driven ground rod.
I hate to say, kind of like we always had done it before, and went down to that structure, just lost sight of losing our EPZ 500 feet away from our grounded crane to our driven ground rod. We had done that in the past, got away with it, but see now from this second line being built, just that much more induction. If someone would have told me we'd have almost 4 kV of induction from that second line, I wouldn't have believed it until we actually measured and found that. Yeah, just fortunate that we had 2 guys in the air at that time. Pole bands, everything tied together to the same point. What we were taught, if that does come hot, have a rise in voltage, everything will be at the same potential. That we proved that it was inadequate by having that crane grounded 500 feet away from the system ground. If we would have had that all tied in together, we still may have had that voltage, but we wouldn't have even realized it, or no one would have gotten hurt. Yeah, lessons learned. I wish we could have learned this without him getting hurt. If I could have that day all over again, we would have done it differently for sure. I think I've said it before that kind of the way we've always done it in the past isn't the right attitude. Everything's changed. We're building more transmission lines. Things change. Just need to get out of that, just the way we've always done it mentality. I was guilty of it this day and work to not let that happen again.